live from St. Louis, Missouri at STS Studios. Now, where are we hailing from tonight, Gene Jackson?
Coleman, Alabama, as always.
Roll Tide, baby, Roll Tide.
Last night, I was down in Leeds, Alabama, but I'm back home in Coleman now. So.
Right on. Good deal. Hey, by the time this episode comes out this week, before the next episode, we will already see each other at All In. Are you excited about it?
I am, man. Good Lord, they're bringing everybody in the world to StarCast, and then All In. Each match they announce is really, really getting me fired up. And of course, the rumor is, I don't know if you've heard this or if it's true.
I have,
but
go ahead. Tell our listeners.
Kenny Omega versus Pentagon Jr. is a rumored match at All In, and my God, what a match that would be.
I'm just excited about everything. I've been to a couple of, I haven't been to a wrestling con, in years. I mean, God, 1980, I want to say 85, 86 was the last wrestling con I went to.
Oh, wow.
So that shows you I haven't been to any of these big ones, but also, it's been forever since I've been to Chicago. I'm excited about spending some time with Lance, finding out you and your wife are going to be there. My wife are going to be there too. We're going to get a big picture taken. If you are listening to this and you are a Shooting the Shiznit fan, I hate saying fan, but I'm going to say it. A Shooting the Shiznit listener. How's that sound?
There you go.
I got shit to give away. So if you see me running around, me and Gene, stop us, talk to us, I'll give you some stuff. So how's that? I'll give you a sticker. I might give you a T-shirt if I think you're pretty or handsome. So, or if you smell good. You know, Gene, I always like a good man that smells good. So
maybe you can finally confirm Rosie's statement that Cody Rhodes is a good smelling man.
Oh my God! I just thought of the same thing as you did. I may be able to. If he does, I may just give him one of our T-shirts there. All right, so we sat down this time instead of going to the WWE Vault, which we get a lot of our stuff from. But I was all excited about, and I do this random. I do. I just get on and I typed in August because this is August the 12th. I just put August, and I just put 90-minute version because I wanted the full 90-minute version of Memphis Wrestling. So we ended up with 8/12/1989. Guys, this will be on stspod.club. If you want to actually go watch it first, come back and listen to the podcast, or turn down the volume and listen to what we're bullshitting about. That's fine. But it will be up there, and you can just click it and go all the way to YouTube also. And, Gene, I'm going to put it up on your site, too, localslegends.com, so it'll be up there also for everyone to watch. All right, let's get started. So we open up with Dave Brown without Lance Russell. And so I had to do a little quickly research. I thought this was true, but I had to type in to find out this was when Lance had went to WCW.
That's right. Lance was working in WCW, and how weird was it at the time back in '89 to turn on WCW and there's Lance Russell, and then to turn on Memphis and no Lance Russell. It was kind of sad, actually.
It was during the CWA time when this was going on, and Dave was good, but you know what? Lance was missed. He really was. You could tell that he's the one that that did all the leading of the commentary, and Dave was always the second guy. But Dave wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but I did miss Lance. The first thing we saw was an Australian football clip from an Australian football match. And I didn't remember Dustin coming into Memphis, but Dustin was there for almost, he stayed all the way until September of the next year, or the fall. They said fall, so I'm thinking around September. Dustin and Dundee, Bill Dundee, Dustin Rhodes against Black Bart and Dirty White Boy, they didn't really have to pin no one, did they? I didn't really get all those rules. So, do you remember the exact rules of that one?
I don't remember exactly, but there was a key taped to the football, and then you could let somebody out of handcuffs or something. every time I think that people are too harsh about Memphis and say it's too gimmicky and they did too much silly shit, I watch one of these old CWA shows and I'm like, Australian football tag match. Jesus Christ. Who come up with this? But, you ran a weekly territory and you were in those towns week in and week out. You couldn't just have normal wrestling matches every week. You had to get creative, and holy cow, that is something else.
Well, yeah, I was real confused. I mean, they explained it. They did a good job explaining it, but I was just like, huh? There was a key on the football. Everyone who got it, and I think Dustin got out, so they raised their hands, and that was it. That was just really strange. I remember that ring, and all that stuff back then, but did it, I don't know if it was the video or, the version that we get to watch, or it was just, it looked like the Mid-South Coliseum was darkened a lot during that.
It did. I attribute it to maybe crowd was down and they were just trying to not show on TV how bad it looked, because I don't think 89 was really a peak time for Memphis. And so that's the only thing I could attribute to, is maybe they just dimmed the lights over the crowd to not really put a lot of focus on that. That's the only thing.
Well, I tried to look up the attendance, okay? So they give you really good version of the attendance on Pro Wrestling History on Memphis, but they did not have the attendance for these shows, which doesn't surprise me. But I guess that, and here's the weird thing. I'll talk about this as we go, but during this time, I actually made connections with, I met Dutch Mantell for the first time right before all of this, and also was, I always say I broke bread with The Undertaker, which is just me being stupid, or being silly. He actually was at my apartment. We sat down and ate pizza. Here's a guy who we'll talk about here in just a couple. It didn't have one tattoo on. So I was actually behind the scenes a lot during a lot of this stuff and what they were doing. But the thing about it is it's funny because it was during this time, I don't even remember Dustin being part of it. I never met Dustin, and I don't remember him being part of it. But Dustin came from all Japan to work Memphis. So I really don't know what that was going on. Bart and Dirty White Boy did an interview next. I don't know about you, but I've always been a Dirty White Boy fan. I absolutely loved the interview.
Oh, yeah. I was a huge Continental fan, loved his angle with, both Dr. Tom Pritchard and then, his tag team with Jerry Stubbs and his eventual angle against Mr. Olympia. And I loved Black Bart's interviews. He played that so well. God, he's a guy that I feel like really doesn't get enough credit for how entertaining he was throughout his run, whether he was in Memphis or out in World Class or Mid-South, anywhere. He was always entertaining to watch and definitely to listen to. On the flip side of that,
hell of a worker, man. He was
oh, yeah. Most definitely. Dustin at this time seemed like somebody doing the most god-awful, horrible Dusty impression you've ever heard. If you imagine the most cornball, terrible Dusty impression you've ever heard anyone do, be it a fan or a wrestler, I promise you it's better than Dustin here trying to talk like Dusty in 1989.
Oh, it was so bad. And then, Dundee did the whole same interview. It's like, and it was just bad. I mean, the deal is, everyone knew Dusty. Dundee knew Dusty well, and it was probably not a big deal having his son come down and work, but it just didn't come off that well on that interview. And he was just doing a Dusty imitation, like you said, a god-awful one. I thought it was funny, and they did, they always did where the events were going to happen in the towns that they were going to happen. They were Forest City, Arkansas, Earl, Arkansas. August the 26th was in Jonesboro, and I want to tell you I was probably there. Trenton, Tennessee, I didn't know they ran, and Boonville, Mississippi. So they had done Boonville.
Oh, yeah, bringing it to Boonville. And so Dustin and Bill Dundee defeated Rough and Ready.
Oh, yeah.
Classic Memphis job team. And if I can crowbar something in here real quick, because I don't know when I'll get a chance to pat myself on the back for this one again. So I'm going to put it in here because I think you'll appreciate it.
All right.
So, all right, Rough and Ready, classic job team from Memphis. So, I did a whole episode, or at least a portion of an episode with you one time, where we talked about, or maybe we didn't talk about this one, but anyway, me and Neil Taylor wrestled Jerry Lawler and Derek King on an OWO show in Amory, Mississippi.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Okay, I thought we did. And I may have even mentioned this, but I don't think I did because it didn't actually happen. But usually most of my promos and things I say are off the cuff. But as I was driving over to Amory that night, I thought of a line that I thought was amusing, and I knew Derek would think it was amusing, and probably even Lawler would think it was amusing. Now, I didn't get to say this line because we had Jimmy Blaylock in our corner. We had Scott Schwartz was in Lawler's corner, and they did a bit before the match that went on longer than we had expected. But what I was going to say, I was going to get on the mic and go, wow, here we are, Neil Taylor, we are wrestling a couple of Memphis legends. I mean, look, Jerry the King Lawler, WWE Hall of Famer. I don't have to tell you everything Jerry Lawler's done in this business. Now, as for you, Derek, I can never remember. Was you rough or was you ready? I don't remember. I feel like Lawler and Derek both would have popped for that, but Blaylock didn't let me get it in. So
Derek
at least want to say it here on this podcast.
Yeah, well, Hollywood's not going to let it. Hollywood talks enough, so, that's, he would have, oh God, I wish he would have been able to do that. We'll have to get him, we'll have to get him on here, and then, I'm going to steal your line and ask him that. So, what the hell are you,
there you go.
Ready? So next
if not, I'm going to rebook that whole match again. Next
we get, Ronnie Gossett comes out, and he's bragging about getting rid of Dutch Mantell. And let me just say something. When Ronnie first came out on this show, I was like, God, Ronnie P. Gossett, I just used to just love Ronnie P. Gossett. He's hilarious, blah, blah, blah. I was thinking to myself, he got rid of, and by the way, before we finish, you'll hear what I say about Ronnie P. Gossett, but, he got rid of Dutch Mantell. We knew where this was going. It's one of my all-time favorite things is when the babyface loses a loser leave town, and he actually lost to Master of Pain, who became the Undertaker, the week before at the Mid-South Coliseum. That card had all kinds of crazy stuff on it. It had the first match was Ken Wayne against Doug Gilbert. They had Plowboy Frazier and Mad Dog against Mark Starr and Chris Champion. They had Jason and Freddie against the Zombie and the Undertaker. By the way, the Undertaker was a wrestler on that show, but it was a Master Pain, so I thought that was funny. And then we had Rock and Roll, and then they show clips of all the other stuff as we go through here talking about it. But yeah, that's one of those things where Dutch is left, and then we go to a tractor. They're outside. I don't get that part of it, but go ahead.
I don't know. Yeah, that part was kind of odd, but I was always amused by Ronnie Gossett, and in that promo leading up to this with Dutch, Undertaker, Master of Pain, whatever you call him, said more than I remembered him saying in Memphis during this era, so I was impressed by that. One thing I want to squeeze in here real quick, because I haven't said, one of the things I love about watching these old shows on YouTube, especially these Memphis shows, is watching the old commercials. I know most people probably just fast forwarding through them, but the old Central and Ho Folks Restaurant and all that kind of stuff is very nostalgic for me. But anyway.
So cheesy. They're so cheesy, but I love them.
They are.
I left it on, yeah. I watched 90 minutes, every bit of it.
Well, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one then, because I figured I was the only one doing that. But, man, of all the babyface leaves town and comes back under a mask gimmicks, Texas Dirt may be one of my favorite, most entertaining ones of all. Would you not agree?
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear that, because Dutch, was doing something else, and then he started doing that with Master Pain, and it was him doing the gimmick and then starting with the coming back as Texas Dirt, I thought it was hilarious. The tractor thing was just stupid but funny. And then what the fuck was Paul Neighbors doing out there with Bill Dundee? I never understood that. I was like,
I guess he was Bill's ride or something. I guess Bill didn't have a car with his fucking face on it yet to drive out there. But yeah, that felt very Bill Dundee walking up to Texas Dirt riding a tractor was random enough, but then Paul Neighbors just inexplicably there made the whole thing just feel so bizarre. But all those great T-shirts that Texas Dirt would wear as well, like, you know, Dutch Says Hi and shit like that over the course of that gimmick, you know, just really played it up for, you know, all it was worth on the hokey side of it. But you couldn't help but love it.
Yeah, I loved it. We had a squash match with one of the jobbers was Freezer Thompson, and I had to give you a Freezer Thompson story. Have you ever been on a show with Freezer Thompson?
I'll do you one better. I have wrestled Freezer Thompson.
Oh my
Monroe.
God!
Not to brag, but yeah.
You're my
at
hero.
a dirt bike track in Batesville, Mississippi, 3 years ago.
Oh my God! So
I made trash bag wrestlers too. Because of him, not me. I had gear. The pictures of that match made it on Trash Bag Wrestlers because Freezer was wrestling like a freaking T-shirt and sweatpants. And I had gear on, by God. But yeah, that match made Trash Bag Wrestlers. And there was actually a guy in the background sitting on a four-wheeler because all they had was like a handful of folding chairs and everybody else was just kind of standing and there's a dude on a four-wheeler. So needless to say, the Trash Bag Wrestler gang had a field day with that one.
Oh my God, yes. Freezer Thompson was like on every show that I worked, I think, in Arkansas. And I never really did anything with him. It was always just me and my teams, and I never done anything with him. But then one of my friends, his wife, had bought a brand new white couch, okay? And then my friend's wife, they asked Freezer to come over after the matches or something so that they could have this big, huge barbecue. And I know you know where this is going. Freezer sat down and got barbecue sauce all over this white couch. So just god-awful. And like you said...
I thought it was going to be more like something from Coming to America or something when you first said white couch.
Oh, no, it wasn't that bad. You're right about the Undertaker there. Pretty good interview. It was fun. It was still funny for me. I've got pictures of him with no tattoos, but still, look, they beat the hell out of everybody, the jobbers, and Black Bart even went after Dave Brown with a chair after it. So I thought that was hilarious. But we had a clip of a picture of Jerry Bryant. You remember Jerry Bryant?
Of the Memphis Vice.
Yeah. And he had Lou Gehrig's disease, right?
He did.
Oh, just horrible stuff. And I remember him and Big Lou Winston. Yeah. That was his tag team partner. Then we get clips of Lawler against Bigelow. Typical Lawler match. Bigelow was just so good for a guy his size. I've seen him some of the first matches he had with Lawler in Blythe, Arkansas. Lawler absolutely loved working Bigelow. Absolutely loved working him because he was such a big guy. He would do the old, take the beat down, and then make the comeback. And Bigelow's selling was just fantastic. I mean, he would bump all over the place. Now, tell me the finish of this match. This is god-awful, the finish of this match is.
So, all right, we were talking about crazy gimmicks, and this was a favorite in Memphis. The Coward Waves the Flag match. And in this instance, each person had someone in their corner. So Bigelow had Ronnie P in his corner, and Lawler had Eddie Marlin. And so at one point in the match, Eddie Marlin crawls on his hands and knees around the ring over to where Gossett is, snatches his flag, and waves it. The referee looks over, sees the flag waving, and calls for the finish, which should be a heel finish anywhere else but in Memphis. And, of course, it went on from there and, of course, led to Bigelow being suspended or some such because he attacked the referee, but, you know, you kind of understood it based on what took place. But, yeah, it was very, very a screwy finish, and this coward waves the flag, just a screwy match to start with. But, again, it's Memphis. Lawler and Bigelow had wrestled 7,000 times, you know, before, so you had to put a twist on it. But
yeah, I was just like real confused. I was like, now that was what a heel should do. So then Marlon comes out, and him and Gossett get into it. Marlon he calls him Big Boy, which I cracked up when he called him a Big Boy. And then the gimmick that they had coming up was that if Gossett lost, then I never got this. I understand things like this, but Eddie Marlin got to put powder on his butt in a diaper. What the fuck was that about?
Yeah. Especially the way it was presented here. Like, you know, Razor Ramon, a 1-2-3 Kid did it a few years later. He was 1-2-3 Kid. It kind of made sense from a humiliation standpoint. But, like, the way Marlon described it, like, it didn't even come off like a humiliation. It just come off like something he was going to be into. after the almost as if he was describing something that was going to happen in the back after everybody left the building or something. It did not land with me at all. I was just like, what in the, oh my God, thank God he didn't tell us to watch the show that recaps that.
Right. Well, what happens is Gossett's supposed to be, if he wins, he's promoter for the week, and spoiler alert, Gossett won, so we didn't get to see him get a powder. So,
all right, let's stop right there and go to a quick commercial. We'll be right back.
Then we got clips from Rock and Roll against the Blackbirds. I absolutely love the Blackbirds team. All Parsons and Brickhouse Brown. We got some clips of that. Apparently, Rock and Roll were supposed to win some amount of money, but Parsons and Brown actually shortened them in their envelope there. They only got $200-something. So I thought that was hilarious. And then, you know, we got the typical Rock and Roll interview and all that. But I really did. I loved that. I loved that they shortened them the money.
And the way they described it afterwards, you know, they were so just matter of fact about it. Yeah, we shorted your money.
Yeah, we're gonna play that clip. Yeah. Let's do that. This was hilarious. This was later on in the show, but since we're talking about it right now, I'm gonna go ahead and play the clip right now. Listen to what Brickhouse says that Rock and Roll done with the money.
Well, first of all, them suckers talking about we shortchanged them. You know, them fools done did ice. They done blowed all that money on them little groupies out there somewhere. That's right.
They went and blew all the money and all they got is, how much was it?
It's two things we can do and do well. And that's kick booty and count money. We paid you punks. Now, what you did with your money, we don't know. But now, we're going to talk to our lawyer to see, because we're suing you suckers, boy, for slanders, because nothing from nothing leaves nothing. And what you done with that money was probably nothing.
Yeah, you know, the Brickhouse wanted to say the Rats, that the Rock and Roll spent that money on the Rats. You know that's what he did. So, I'm going to tell you, at this point, like I said, I did like Gossett, but I'm just so sick and tired of him already. He talks about this fake tournament they had, and someone won a title shot against Lawler, and then he brings out Landale. I want to play the Landale. One thing I love, Buddy Landale, I want to play the interview because this is not one of his best interviews. He says a while about 3 times. But some of the stuff in it about him watching soap operas and all that's hilarious, and how he talks about Gossett being in shape. So here, let's go ahead and play this clip too.
I want to present to you, my new man, the original Nature Boy, Buddy Landale. Hello, Buddy. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, well, you know, let me tell some people here. A lot of people have been underestimating the Nature Boy, Buddy Landale, because I've been in and out of wrestling for a while. You know, I made so much money there for a while.
That's right.
I just kicked back for a while, but so there's some misconceptions. People have been throwing Buddy Landale on the back burner. But let me tell you something. There's more to professional wrestling than these guys getting up. Anybody can get up. and go take steroids and go to the gym and get knots all over their body. But it takes a hell of a man to lay in bed all day and drink milk and cookies and watch soap operas. I can tell you all about the soap operas, baby. But anyway, it's obvious that the women in Memphis are starved for the sight of a real man, and I'm going to give you a shot in the arm right now, baby. Now, Memphis, Dave Brown, you know this for a fact. Memphis ain't got nothing to be proud of. They ain't got a football team. They ain't never had a basketball team, and Dana Kirk's seen to that. And now, the only thing that they got to be proud of is the Nature Boy Buddy Landell's coming to take the world title, Memphis, Monday night against Jerry Lawler. And I'm going to take the belt, and I'm going to wear it with pride. And I don't appreciate you people saying that he's got more chins than a Chinese phone book.
No, I don't either.
No, he don't. This man is the picture of perfect health right here, and he's going to stomp a mud hole in Eddie Marlin and walk it dry, and then he's going to come out and watch me take care of Jerry Lawler. So I'll be the new... Hey, if I need any crap out of you, I'll squeeze your head, all right? Shut up!
All right. I always loved Buddy Landell. What about yourself?
Oh, yeah, big Buddy Landell fan. He was very entertaining, but you made a good point that I was going to bring up at some point during the show, and now's as good a time as any. Good God, back then, 85% of the show was gossip. And, of course, they were bad about that with heel managers in Memphis always, back to the Jimmy Hart days and up to the Scott Bowden days of USWA. And I liked all those guys. And it even goes on now. I mean, I love Jimmy Blaylock to death, and I know it's not his idea because I hear him back there complaining about it on a lot of shows. But, there'll be 5 matches on a card, and Jimmy will, manage 4 of the heels and then do a promo before the match that he's not managing in. There's such thing as too much of a good thing. And, boy, they really, 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 really beat you over the head with Ronnie Gossett during this era. Not just this episode, and then, God forbid, like you said, the next week he's promoter for a week, so he's pretty much out there the entire show. So it's really hard to keep your heat when you're that overexposed.
Jimmy does that, and I did that too for the longest time. I mean, they would have me go out with every heel, Coach BT, do this, do that. And then I started a feud against Miles Long. I don't remember, Trey Keller. Do you remember him?
Yeah. I do. I had some funny interactions with him.
And Trey was like, dude, you go out with all these people, and one of your guys is feuding with me. I don't want you going out with all these other people. And I was like, okay, fine with me, but that's what we did. And I was so much more effective of what I did during that time with that storyline and that feud than I did when I went out 100 times, and I got paid the same $7. So, that's a good
exactly.
But we got the interview with Landell, and then we had a big, was it an 8-man tag? We had Mark Starr, Chris Champion, and they were known as Wildside at this time, and then they had Brickhouse and them as the Blackbirds tagged, and they said it was T.D. Steele's first appearance. Did you get that?
I heard that. I was like, really? That's crazy, because Lord knows there was plenty of T.D. Steele appearances after that, so that was kind of neat to think that was his first appearance. What did you think of the Wildside? Like, I was a big fan of that team back in the day. I loved that they came out to the Motley Crue song. But I was even a fan of Chris Champion as one half of the New Breed in Crockett back in the day. I don't know, I always enjoyed his work. I always enjoyed the tag teams he was in, not so much as the Ninja Turtle for various reasons, and I didn't really get the whole Yoshi Kwan thing. And bless his heart, I know he's as a little side note there, I know he's in pretty bad shape right now, and he's been in intensive care, and he's had some strokes and whatnot, and our prayers and well wishes go out to him for sure. But I just really enjoyed the Wildside gimmick. Maybe I'm alone.
Love the team. No, not true. I love New Breed. I was huge New Breed. Champion was actually a really, really good worker. Mark Starr was too. They wrestled. Mark Starr was on Florida Championship Wrestling a lot. I'm not sure who trained him, but that team was so fucking good. And they
were supposedly brothers, right?
Yeah,
I didn't know that until years later. I didn't realize that.
That was the rumor. I don't know how true. I think half brothers. I think they both had the same. They maybe had the same mom. I think I may be totally wrong on that, but I got the Turtle story. I wrestled the first show I ever wrestled on. I wrestled on a show with Chris Champion as the Turtle. There was Chris Champion, actually, if you don't know this, was accused of molesting, and I don't think he ever went to jail for it, molesting somebody while he was in the turtle suit. But who knows whether that was true or not. I have a Chris Champion story. I actually wrestled Chris Champion in a battle royal. And it was a battle royal where I got really ribbed real bad. The first thing with Chris Champion was I was talking to Candy Divine. Do you remember her?
I do.
And I was actually doing here's what I was doing. I was actually wrestling and doing a magazine article, and taking pictures all in one show. I mean, I was taking the pictures, I was doing the magazine article about Candy Divine, and then I was doing one about all the wrestlers that were in that, on that show. And I wrestled J.D. McKay, my arch nemesis, J.D. McKay. I was talking to Candy Divine, and she was sitting right next to me with her hand on my knee, and I was thinking to myself, I'm going to get lucky with Candy Divine? What the fuck here? Chris Champion walks into the dressing room buck naked. Okay. And Chris always carried a snake. He had this snake that he was carrying around. And let me just say, that's not the only snake he had. All right. So it went about down to his fucking knee. And so after Candy seen that, she started talking to Chris Champion, and didn't say another word to me. So, and I couldn't compete with the motherfucker anyway. So long story short, what was going on, was that, we had this battle royal, and they were all talking about Chris Champion was stiff with his super kick, you know? And so they were giving me hell, and then Chris comes up to me and he says, "Can you take a super kick?" Well, I wasn't gonna be a puss, you know? So it was over the top battle royal. I was next to last in the ring. I was, you know, like there was 12 of us, and it was me and Chris Champion. And Champion super kicks me, and dude, it was like a feather. I mean, it was beautiful. They were just ribbing me about how stiff it was going to be. And he just, I mean, and instead of bumping over the top rope, I went head first between the top rope and the second rope.
Oh, God.
Landed on my head, and where I landed, it was on my eyebrow. I ended up with the prettiest black eye you've ever seen. And it started getting black, and I just went along with it backstage. Man, he kicked me right in the face. So it was actually really fun. There's my Chris Champion stories. I overtook the whole show with my Chris Champion stories, but I've always wanted to tell the story about the snake, but he was just so light. He chopped me a couple times, and then he did the super kick, and it was and I had to work that god awful J.D. McKay. So there we go.
The outlaw.
So next, oh my God, next we get the main event. I'm so excited to talk about the main event on Memphis Wrestling. It was expiration of time limit. Go ahead, Gene. Tell everyone what it was.
We got to back up to one other match though that we saw a clip of. This caught me completely off guard. Plowboy Frazier and Cousin Junior against Doug Gilbert and Gary Albright. I don't remember Gary Albright being in Memphis. I was bumfuzzled by that. Not much else to note about the match, obviously, considering, but I just didn't remember Gary Albright being in Memphis. So that was an interesting, another one of those little tidbits, you know, from these shows we watched where I was like, oh crap, I totally forgot he had ever been there. So anyway, just want to throw that in real quick before we get to the main event. We were just
go ahead. I'm going to let you do it.
Buddy Landale had been out there, and now we've got a 10-man tag match, right? Are you talking about, are we just...
No. We had that. That was the squash. And then next we had Buddy against Freddie. Freddie Krueger against Buddy Landale is your main event of the day on Memphis Wrestling. And not only did we see, it
It is funny the way Buddy's working him, you know. I mean, it's supposed to be. I never understood these gimmicks. I really didn't, you know. But Buddy Landell working just typical spots with, you know, Freddie. And then you end up seeing Jason come out for the save later. I mean, only Memphis could get away with Australian football tag matches and Freddie and Jason and poor Buddy Landell, and they're trying to make this look like something.
Well, Buddy was doing the old fake foreign object thing where he would put it in his pants, and he was like trying to work a match. Freddie was Tommy Gilbert, right?
Yeah, in most cases. I know every now and again, apparently Doug would don the outfit even then, but more often than not, it was Tommy Gilbert.
And then Jason, I don't know if you noticed this, but if you look, when Jason comes in, Gossett is down, and he trips over Gossett's fat ass and falls down. Jason does.
I know. Jason comes out and eats shit, falling over Gossett, and he's barely any taller than Freddie. I mean, typically in wrestling, you know, Jason was always a towering figure, but like this particular Jason, who I have no idea who this Jason was. Maybe you do. But was not a particularly large man to be playing the Jason character.
I was just assuming it was Doug. I really was. I didn't know. I knew him, and they actually took it to Japan at one time. He was afraid. I didn't ever understand this. And you know who booked all this shit, by the way? This was Jerry Lawler's booking. This whole show, Lawler was the booker. Lawler loves fucking monsters and all that horse shit. And it was just horrible. Freddie was jumping around like, I don't know how to explain it. Guys, you gotta watch this. Freddie is, the suit is excellent. It is very good. It's done very well. But him jumping around, in that match just had me laughing. He won by DQ or something. God, I don't remember. And then with Jason jumping in, and Lawler was, like you said, was out ringside with them, and just, and Lawler had this big, you know, smile on his face, like he loved every minute of it. And I'm thinking to myself, he probably did, love every minute of it. But my big deal was, and I'm thinking at all times, I'm thinking this is, that this is, Tommy Gilbert. How did they talk Tommy Gilbert into doing that? I'd really like to have him on the show and say, dude, now remember, I gotta remember Tommy Gilbert right, what we did see of Tommy Gilbert. He was like a damn good, like, you know, worker, right? I mean, what I remember.
Oh, yeah.
A wrestler. He was a wrestler. He wasn't no gimmick to him, but, he was ace of something at one time and did a mask, and he was just so damn good. And then he did just this gimmick. So I don't know if it was because of the age or something, but he really, I don't know how they actually talked him into doing it.
A fun Freddie story, and it's not about Tommy Gilbert, but
okay.
Years later, when I first started wrestling, I had been wrestling maybe 2 or 3 months, doing shows for Sammy Hall. And so he liked that I could talk, so he would send me out and have me manage a couple of people, and then later I'd come out and wrestle. So, the one night he had Tony Dabbs doing, Freddie. He had the whole Freddie outfit. And it was pretty good.
Oh, God.
So Tony puts the Freddie outfit on, and in front of everybody, I asked Sammy, I said, hey, can I manage Freddie? And again, I've only been around a couple of months. Sammy looks at me just incredulously and goes, why in the fuck would Freddie Krueger need a manager? And without missing a beat, I go, why in the fuck would Freddie Krueger be in a fucking wrestling match? And Sammy looked at me, and everybody in the dressing room started laughing. He goes, fuck it, go out there, I don't care.
That is, I mean, why would he? You know, and how did they get away with the shit? I guess they were just totally under the radar and did not, no one knew about Freddie or Jason, or we had Spider-Man at one time and Captain America. I mean, it's fucking crazy. Hey, and before I ask you the question, I want to also tell you, we talked about those commercials. This is my last comment about this TV show, was those Squirt TV commercials for Squirt Soda. Those were fucking vulgar. I mean, here, almost every one of them, all I could think of was dude was, drinking, a big load of, whatever you get after using spunklube.com. I mean, but that's what it looked like. Big smile on their face, and I was like, man, am I the only one thinking this? Which I might be, but, guys,
I swear to God, I can send you a picture of my paper here. The last 2 notes on this paper was, give your thirst a squirt, LOL. And then the next one was, holy shit, you could get a Big Mac for 59 cents and a Wendy's Biggie Meal for $2.97 in August of 1989. But yeah, I definitely made note of give your thirst a squirt.
There you go. That was one of the most vulgar sodas you could ever drink. And that 59 cents for a Big Mac. Jesus Christ. All right,
That's
Dean, so we gotta answer the question. And one of the things that they said, we got one criticism, well, probably a bunch of criticism. One that actually that we actually kind of gave a thumbs in the middle on one of those shows last time. Now, this time, we got to do it, either good or bad, whatever. I ask you the question, was it really that good?
This era, no.
Amen.
Having talked about everything we just talked about, the football match, the finish to the Coward Waves the Flag, Freddie, Jason, Flyboy Freddy, no, I can't defend it. I
gotta tell you, I can't
near and dear to my heart, but
August of 1989, I can remember, like I said, I spent a lot of time listening to Dutch Mantel talk about wrestling and hanging around with Master of Pain at the time, but God, this was bad. The only highlight of the whole thing to me was Texas Dirt, and I love Texas Dirt like you did. I love the Rock and Roll Against the Blackbirds too, but this show, guys, if you sat through it and watched it, I'm sorry, but it might be just one of those things where y'all can have fun. But was it really that good? No. Memphis Wrestling was not that good during this time. Guys, I want to thank you for joining us. Same bat time, same bat channel on the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Be there and love my mama. Do you want me to go ahead and do the final one? Because you always say I sound like Corey Macklin. Big move! I'm not going to join. I'm not going to put that part of my catchphrase, but I figured I'd do it for you, Jim.